Money does not appear. It travels. That is the sentence that took me years to understand, and once you see it properly, you will never look at your situation the same way again. Money does not materialize out of the air in front of a deserving person. It moves through a sequence. It passes through a series of stages inside you before it ever shows up as a number on a screen. And at every one of those stages there is a checkpoint, and at every checkpoint it can be stopped. Right now, for you, it is stopped. It is sitting at one specific checkpoint, and it has been sitting there for a long time, and the reason nothing you do works is that you keep trying to push at a stage that comes after the one where it is being held. That is what this is about. 7 levels. The route money actually takes to reach a human being level by level, in order from the place it starts to the moment it becomes a number you can see. Nobody shows you this route. You have been given the beginning of it by spiritual teachers and the very end of it by financial people, and the 5 stages in the middle, where the whole thing is decided, have never been described to you at all. So you have spent years working on the 2 ends of a system you have never seen the middle of, and by the end of this, you are going to know exactly which level yours is stuck at, because the symptoms are different at each one, and they are specific enough that you will recognize yours immediately. Let me first explain why almost nobody sees this. The average person believes money comes from a source, a job, a client, a business, an investment, something out there that has money and gives you some. And because they believe that, they spend their entire life at the far end of the pipeline, pushing on the last stage, sending applications and messages and asking for the raise, wondering why the pipeline that has been dry for 6 years is still dry. The average spiritual person is not much better. They believe money comes from the universe in response to a request, and they spend their life at the very beginning, sending the request over and over, and never once examining the 5 stages between the request and the arrival, where the entire thing is actually being decided. Neville said something about this that people quote and misunderstand constantly. He said the world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself. Everyone hears the word mirror and pictures something instant, like a reflection that appears the moment you move. That is not how it works, and that image has confused more people than it has helped. It is not a mirror on your bathroom wall. It is a long system that carries a signal outward, level by level, each one handing off to the next, and by the time it comes back to you as an event in the world, it has passed through 6 intermediate stages, each of which can weaken it, distort it, or hold it completely. You do not have a money problem, you have a checkpoint, and I want to give you the right image for this, because the wrong image is why people stay stuck for decades. Think about how a large sum of money moves through the world when somebody needs it to become legitimate. It does not go from one place to another in a single jump. It passes through a series of stages, and at each stage it has to clear something before it is allowed to continue. It changes form, it gets handed to a different system, and if it fails a single one of those stages, it does not matter how large it was at the start or how good the intention was, it stops there and it does not come out the other end. The amount was never the issue. Clearance was the issue. That is exactly what happens with money arriving into a human life. It has to clear every level of you before it can show up as an event. Your state has to clear it. Your body has to clear it. The way you talk to yourself has to clear it. Your perception has to admit it exists. Your behavior has to be capable of receiving it. Other people have to respond to you in a way that lets it move, and only then does a circumstance form that can carry it. Fail at any single stage and it stops there. And you never see it stop, because the failure happens inside you quietly, at a stage you did not know existed, and all you experience is another month where nothing happened. This is also why 2 people with identical skills, identical cities, identical starting money, end up 30 years apart. It was never talent and it was rarely effort. One of them was clearing all 7, and the other was being held at level 3 since childhood. So here is the route. I'm going to name all 7 quickly, then take them one at a time, and I want you to keep a scorecard in your head as we go, because you are going to feel a jolt of recognition at one of them, and that is your answer. Level 1 is state, who you are being. Level 2 is your body, the physical setting your state produces. Level 3 is inner speech, the conversation running when nobody is listening. Level 4 is perception, what you are able to notice, Level 5 is behavior, what you do without deciding to. Level 6 is other people, how they respond to you before you speak. Level 7 is circumstance, the event that carries the money. And then, at the end of all 7, there is the number in your account, which is not a level at all. It is a printout. It is the receipt at the bottom of the process, and it is the only thing you have been looking at. Level 1. State. This is the origin, and everything downstream inherits from it. State is not a mood, and this is the confusion that ruins people. A mood is weather. State is who you are being right now, the identity you have assumed, the set of assumptions you are living from about what is true, what is possible, and what is normal for someone like you. You are always in a state. There is no neutral. Right now, listening to this, you are occupying one, and it has a set of assumptions in it, and those assumptions are being handed down the line as we speak. Here is how you diagnose level 1, and it is not by asking yourself what you believe, because everybody lies to themselves about that. You diagnose it by finishing a sentence quickly without thinking. Money is. Say it out loud right now and take the first ending that comes, not the one you would like to have. Money is hard. Money is stressful. Money is something I never have enough of. Money is a problem I am always solving. Money is coming. Whatever came out is level 1. That is the assumption running the entire pipeline, and every other level is going to obey it faithfully. And no amount of effort at levels 5, 6, or 7 will overrule it, because those levels are downstream, and downstream does not correct upstream. Most people never touch level 1 in their entire life. They are aware of moods, they are aware of goals, they are aware of habits, and the actual origin of the whole sequence is invisible to them. It is like a person adjusting the picture on a television by wiping the screen. The fix at level 1 is the only real work in this entire field, and it is Neville's whole method. You assume a different state and you stay in it until it stops feeling like a costume. Lying down at night, at the edge of sleep, occupying a short scene in which the money is already handled, from the inside, first person, until it goes flat and ordinary. That is not a technique for getting money. That is you changing the origin of the pipeline. Everything after level 1 is automatic, and I mean that literally. You do not have to manage the other 6, but you do need to know about them, because they are how you diagnose yourself. And because when you understand what each one does, you stop sabotaging them by accident. Level 2. The body. Your state becomes a physical setting almost instantly, and this happens well below anything you can control by deciding. There is a baseline in your body right now, a resting tension, a default breathing depth, a jaw position, a way your shoulders sit. And there is a specific reaction that fires in your chest in the quarter second before you look at a price. Before you have consciously read anything, before any thought exists. That reaction is the state made physical. It is the assumption from level 1 showing up as tissue. Diagnose level 2 with 2 tests. First, open your banking app right now and pay attention to your body in the second before the number loads. Not after, before. Is there a brace? Second, imagine somebody says an amount out loud, a big one, an amount that would change your year. And notice what happens in your chest. Does something tighten? Does something lift? Does something go cold? That flinch is the single most expensive thing you own. It is doing more damage to your finances than every bad decision you have ever made, because it is running thousands of times a month, silently, under everything. Now here is what most people get wrong at this level. They try to fix the body directly. Breathing exercises before checking the account, calming down before a negotiation, relaxing the shoulders on purpose, and it does almost nothing because you are trying to edit a printout. The body is expressing level 1 faithfully, and it will keep expressing it no matter how many times you unclench your jaw. The only real work at level 2 is to notice it without reacting to it. When the flinch fires, do not fight it, do not analyze it, do not feel defeated by it, just register it. That is my old setting. And then continue. Fighting it feeds it. Noticing it starves it, because a reaction that is observed without participation loses its authority over time. Level 3. Inner speech. Now we are at the level where the majority of people listening to this are actually stuck, and it is the level almost nobody examines, because it is running so constantly that it has become the sound of being alive. Your body's setting becomes language, not the language you speak in public, the language underneath, the continuous commentary that never stops. the thing you are saying when nobody can hear you. Neville was more insistent about this than about almost anything else. He said, "Your inner conversation is what creates your outer world, and that if you want to know what is coming, you do not look at what you plan or intend. You listen to what you say to yourself when you are not performing for anyone. So listen. Actually listen for 1 hour today and count. I cannot afford that. Things are tight right now. Maybe next month." That is a lot for what it is, I wish. Must be nice. Of course this would happen now. I am always the one who has to figure it out. How am I going to cover this? You will find dozens, possibly hundreds. And here is the part that will bother you. You do not experience them as beliefs. You experience them as observations, as neutral descriptions of a factual situation. That is precisely what makes Level 3 so effective at holding money, because you cannot dispute a statement you never noticed making. Diagnose Level 3 by catching the automatic response. Someone mentions something expensive. What is the first sentence that forms in you before you speak? That sentence is your Level 3 unedited. And now the fix, which is not what you expect. You do not replace those sentences with wealthy sentences. I do not walk around telling yourself you are a millionaire while your body is doing what it is doing. That is a fight you will lose in the middle of the afternoon, and losing it repeatedly teaches your system that none of this is real. You just stop. You let the sentence stop in your throat and you say nothing at all instead. Change the subject inside your own head. Think about something concrete and unrelated. Silence is not neutral. Silence is a room with nothing being installed in it, and after a few days of not making the deposits, Level 3 goes quiet enough for the night work to actually take hold. That is the discipline. Not affirmation, subtraction. Level 4. Perception. Your inner speech shapes what you are capable of noticing, and this level is where things get genuinely unsettling because you cannot audit it from the inside. Your senses take in more information every second than your awareness can process, by an enormous factor, and something has to decide what reaches you and what gets dropped. That filter is not neutral, and it is not random. It is set by the levels above it. It admits what is consistent with your state, and it drops what is not, and it does this before you are aware anything arrived. Which means that opportunities are being deleted before you see them, not ignored. Deleted. It is not that you saw the message and decided not to act. It is that your eye passed over it, and it did not register as relevant, and you have no memory of it at all. Because there is no memory of a thing that never reached awareness. You already know this happens, in a smaller form. You buy a car, and suddenly that car is everywhere. Those cars were always there. Your filter changed, so your world changed. Nothing outside moved. Diagnose Level 4 by looking backward. Go back 3 or 4 years, and find something you now know was available to you and that you did not act on. A person who offered something, a field that was opening up, something a friend told you about that you nodded at. When you look at it now, it is obvious. It was obvious then too to somebody else, standing in a different state, who saw it as an opportunity while you saw it as noise. There is no direct fix at Level 4. You cannot decide to perceive more. Anyone who tells you to look for opportunities has not understood the problem, because looking is done by the same filter that is already excluding them. This level only changes when Level 1 changes, and then it changes on its own, and the experience of it is very strange. Things start appearing that you would swear were not there before. People will tell you that you are lucky. What actually happened is that your filter began admitting a category of information it had been discarding for years. That is 4. And notice something about the root so far. Nothing has happened out in the world yet. Nothing external has moved at all. A state produced a body, the body produced a language, the language set a filter, and every bit of that happened inside one person, before a single event took place. Before I take you through the last 3 levels, which are the ones where money finally becomes visible, there is one thing I want to hand you. The work at Level 1 requires you to hold a scene in your mind for a few minutes, without your attention scattering. And for a lot of people, that is exactly where the whole thing collapses. They understand the pipeline, they know where they are stuck, and then they lie down and cannot keep an image still for more than 10 seconds. That is not a lack of belief, it is an untrained faculty. There is a program that deals with that specific problem, and I have put it in the pinned comment because enough people have asked me. I did not make it, and I am not claiming it. I point at it because it does that one narrow job well. If that is your bottleneck, look at it. If it is not, stay with me because levels 5 and 6 are where most of you are going to recognize yourselves. Level 5. Behavior. This is where the inside becomes visible for the first time, and it is almost never visible in the way people expect. When you imagine behavior, you think of big decisions. Whether you quit, whether you start the business, whether you move cities, that is not where it lives. The behavior that decides your income is made of moves so small that you do not experience them as decisions at all. The price you say out loud, and then the small softening sentence you add right after it unprompted, before anyone has objected to anything. The discount you offer before it is asked for. The message you do not follow up on, because following up would feel like you need it too much. The room you get slightly quieter in. The invitation you decline with a reason that is not the real reason. The email you take 4 days to answer, because opening it makes something in your chest tighten, so you handle other things first. The opportunity that arrives at a bad moment, and you say, "Let me think about it," and then you do not think about it. None of those feel like choices, they feel like circumstances, they feel like personality. And every single one is level 1 arriving at the surface after passing through your body, your inner speech, and your filter. By the time it becomes behavior, it is so far downstream that you experience it as just being who you are. Diagnose level 5 with one question and answer it honestly. When was the last time you said a number out loud and then said absolutely nothing after it? Not a qualification, not a justification, not a small laugh, not a, "but we can work something out." Just the number and then silence, and you let the silence belong to the other person. If you cannot remember doing that, you are watching level 5 in action. And here is the trap at this level, and it is the trap that most business advice sells you. You can force behavior. You can absolutely make yourself say the number and shut up. Willpower works at level 5 for a while, but when you force behavior without changing level 1, 2 things happen. It costs you an enormous amount of energy because you are running against your own system all day, and the person across from you feels the strain in it, which brings us to the level that decides most of your money. Level 6. Other people. Everything up to now happened inside one person. This is where the world starts answering. And you need to understand how fast this level operates, because it does not work the way you think. People do not evaluate your proposal and then decide how to treat you. They decide how to treat you first, in about 2 seconds, and then they construct reasons for it afterward. They are reading level 2 and level 5 before you have finished a sentence. The tempo of your speech. Where your eyes go when the number is said, whether you fill the silence, how quickly you answered their message, whether your reply had an apology in it, whether there is a small note of hoping in your voice. None of that is processed consciously by them. They just come away with a feeling about you, and that feeling determines what they offer, what they think they can ask for, whether they push, and whether they refer you to someone else. This is why 2 people can deliver the same pitch, with the same words to the same person, and one gets the yes and the other gets a polite maybe. Nothing in the content differed. The content is not what was being evaluated. Diagnose level 6 by looking for a pattern that repeats with different people. If one client negotiates you down, that is a client. If everyone negotiates you down, that is not a coincidence, and it is not the market. If one person talks over you, that is that person. If you are consistently talked over, consistently the one asked to be flexible, consistently the one who ends up doing the extra part, that is a pattern. And patterns that follow you across different rooms did not come from the rooms. Neville's position on this is the hardest idea in his work, and I want to state it accurately. Everyone who appears in your life is playing a part that matches the state you are in. He did not mean people are unreal or that you control their minds. He meant that the version of a person you get, the attitude they show up carrying, corresponds to what you are being. And you have already experienced this, you just filed it under luck. You know there are weeks where everybody is difficult, and weeks where doors open and people are inexplicably generous, and you know the world did not reorganize itself on a Tuesday morning. So you do not manage level 6. You do not learn negotiation scripts to overcome it. You change what people are reading, which is levels 1 and 2, and their behavior reorganizes itself around the new reading without them ever knowing anything changed. There is one more thing at level 6 that I have to say, because it is the mechanism behind most of the money that actually moves in the world, and nobody tells you about it. Most large amounts do not come from the person you are talking to. They come from what that person says about you in a room you are not in. Somebody asks them, "Do you know anyone who does this?" And in that half second, a name either comes up or it does not. That is the entire transaction, and you were not present for it, and you will never know it happened. It is decided by the residue you left, which is not a memory of your qualifications. It is a feeling, and the feeling is almost always some version of either that person is solid or that person needs something. You have made that judgment about others 100 times. There are people you would recommend without hesitation, and people you like personally, and would still never put your name behind. And if you had to explain the difference, you would struggle, because it is not a list of reasons, it is a reading. And a person who is being read as needing something does not get named in that room, not out of cruelty, because recommending them feels slightly risky, and nobody can tell you why. This is why raising your prices without changing anything upstream so often backfires. The number goes up, the strain goes up with it, the reading gets worse, and you end up with fewer clients who negotiate harder. You did not fail because the market rejected the price. You failed because the price arrived carrying tension, and tension is the one thing a buyer can smell through any wall. You cannot script your way out of level 6. You can only stop being a person who is reading that way, and that is done at level 1, which is where every road in this entire system leads. Level 7, circumstance. This is the event, the thing that finally carries the money. The offer, the referral, the sale, the settlement, the raise, the person who writes after 2 years of silence. And here is where almost everybody makes the same mistake, and it is the mistake that keeps otherwise excellent work from producing anything. You pick the channel. You decide it has to come through the promotion, or through that specific client, or through the money somebody owes you. And once you have decided, you begin watching that one door, and you check it, and you evaluate your progress by whether that door is moving. It almost never comes through the door you're watching. Ask anyone who has had a real change in their circumstances, and they will tell you the same thing. It came sideways. An old contact wrote out of nowhere. Something they had written off resolved itself. A person they helped once referred them without being asked. A completely unrelated conversation turned into the thing. That is not charming randomness. It is structural. Level 7 is assembled out of thousands of factors you have no visibility into, involving other people's decisions, timing, and situations that have nothing to do with you. Your state does not dictate logistics. It sets what kind of events are able to form, and then the world works out the delivery through whatever route has the least resistance, and the route with the least resistance is almost never the one you are staring at. So watching one door does two bad things. It makes you miss the actual arrival, because your attention is fixed elsewhere, and every time you check that door and find nothing, you take a small hit at level 1, which is upstream of everything, which means your checking is quietly reversing the work. Diagnose level 7 with this. Things get close and then fall apart at the last step. The deal that was nearly signed. The offer that was verbally agreed and then went quiet. The transfer that was going to happen this week, and then something came up. That specific pattern, the near miss that repeats, is not level 7 failing. It is an earlier level failing at the final gate, usually level 2, because the last stage of any deal is the moment where the tension in you is highest and most readable. And then, after all 7, there is the number in your account. That number is not a level. It is a printout. It is a lagging indicator, describing a process that finished a while ago, and by the time you see it change, the change already happened upstream weeks earlier, which makes checking it as a way to measure your progress one of the most damaging habits you have. It is like judging whether you are getting fit by watching a photograph of yourself from last month. And it is worse than useless, because the act of checking is performed from the state of somebody who does not know, and that state feeds level 1, which restarts the whole pipeline from a weaker position. So now let me give you the thing you actually came for. How to find your checkpoint. You trace backward from your symptom. Here is the map. If techniques feel like pretending, if you lie down and the whole thing feels foolish, and no method has ever produced anything for you, you are held at level 1. You have never actually assumed anything. You have only ever rehearsed wanting. If you understand all of this intellectually, agree with it completely, and still feel your chest tighten when you open the app, you are held at level 2. You have the ideas and not the setting. If you narrate your money situation constantly, out loud or internally, If you can hear the running commentary once I point at it, you are held at level 3. This is the largest group by far. If you believe there are simply no opportunities in your field, your city, your age bracket, your economy, you are held at level 4. That belief is not an assessment of the world, it is a description of your filter. If opportunities do arrive, and you consistently shrink at the exact moment they require you to name a price, ask or follow up, you are held at level 5. If a pattern in how people treat you follows you across every room, you are held at level 6. If things get close and repeatedly fall apart at the last step, you are held at the final gate, and the cause is upstream. Find yours. And then here is the rule that makes this whole map worth something. You do not work at your checkpoint, you work at level 1, always. That sounds like it makes the map useless, so let me be exact about why it does not. The lower levels are diagnostics, not repair sites. They tell you what state you're actually in, as opposed to the state you tell yourself you are in, which is what makes them enormously valuable, because everyone is a liar about level 1, and nobody can fake level 3 for very long. You listen to your inner speech to learn the truth about your assumption, then you go and change the assumption. You do not attack the speech. Working at your checkpoint directly is what everybody does, and it is why nothing holds. Fixing behavior with willpower while the state stays the same gives you a person straining against themselves who reverts in 11 days. Fixing perception by trying to look harder does nothing. Fixing other people with better scripts produces a performance that gets read as a performance. Change the origin, and all 6 downstream levels reorganize on their own in order, and you do not manage a single one of them. Now the objections. Somebody is thinking, so you are telling me to do nothing, and money appears. No, I am telling you that action taken from a changed state is a completely different substance than the same action taken from the state you are in now. You will act. You will act more, in fact, and it will cost you less because you will not be dragging yourself through it. The difference is not whether you send the message. The difference is which person sends it, and the person on the other end can tell the difference every single time. Somebody else is thinking, how long? And the honest answer is that the levels come back online in order, and that order is your progress report. Your body changes first, usually within days. The flinch stops. Then your inner speech goes quiet and you will catch yourself not making the sentence you always make. Then perception opens, and things start appearing that were not on your radar. Then people shift, and this one is unmistakable because it is so strange. People who have treated you one way for years suddenly treat you differently with no discussion. And then circumstance forms, and by then it feels almost anticlimactic because you already knew. If you are watching only for the last one, you will conclude nothing is happening for weeks while 4 levels are changing under you. That is why people quit at day 9. Here is your assignment for the next 7 days. First, find your checkpoint using the map, just for information. Second, for 1 full day, count your level 3. Every sentence about money that runs through your head. Count them, do not fight them. The number will surprise you, and the counting alone begins to weaken them because a sentence you observe cannot operate the way it did when it was invisible. Third, every night 8 minutes at the edge of sleep, 1 short scene where the money is already handled, from the inside, replayed until it goes flat and ordinary, and then sleep. Fourth, do not check your account looking for evidence. Check it when you need information for a decision and no other time. That is it. 1 diagnostic, 1 subtraction, 1 nightly act, 1 prohibition. Now tell me in the comments which level you are held at. Just the number. 1 through 7. I want to see the distribution, and I will tell you now what I expect, which is that most of you are going to say 5 or 6, because that is where the pain is loudest, and most of you are actually held at 3, because that is where the pain is silent. If you have watched your own levels come back online in that order, describe it. Because there is somebody here on day 8, in the flat part, absolutely certain that nothing is happening, who needs to hear that the body goes first. Subscribe if you want the rest of this. I break down one piece of this system every other day. Your money is not missing. It is being held. Go find out where.